Joining me now, opinion writer for The Washington Post and MSNBC contributor Jennifer Rubin. As her readers know, she's a prodigious writer. 12 of her recent pieces dive right into this. 2 intel reports upend GOP propaganda and stop giving racists the benefit of the doubt. Also with me, Rina Shah, former Republican senior Hill aide and formerly part of the group GOP Women for Biden. Thank you to both of you for joining us this morning. Jennifer, I want to sort of underscore what Carol Leonnig was talking about, that there is a choice that all Republicans need to make right now, particularly those who are elected, who are dealing with an electorate, about what kind of Republican they're going to be. And it does seem that more of them are choosing to follow Donald Trump and attract Donald Trump supporters. Those who don't want to, in some cases, are just deciding that they're leaving politics.
That's right. We've had 5 resignations or retirement announcements, rather, from the Senate. And I think there are very few Mitt Romneys in the Republican Party. There are a lot of the characters that you just listed. And you're right in that people like me, who used to consider themselves moderate or mainstream Republicans, we have nothing in common with these people. They're rolling back democracy, as your previous guest said. They're engaged in Jim Crow election advocacy. They are certainly not being constructive in terms of the pandemic. They really are antagonistic towards the fundamentals of democracy, which are truth-telling, accountability, and elections. And those are the fundamentals of democracy, which they no longer really buy into. You're right. It's kind of become a cult. So unless you're part of the cult, you have to look elsewhere. And that's why there are very, very few Mitt Romneys who are willing to take a stance and cross these people. And that's a problem because they're also the worst of the worst in terms of who Joe Biden has to deal with in Congress. Who is he going to make deals with? They want bipartisanship. Well, it takes 2 to tango, and these people are not deal makers.
And Rina, what is this? I mean, I had a great conversation with a friend of mine the other day, a Republican, who said, you know, he sort of named these moderate candidates who will probably be the next Republican presidential candidate, and things will go back to normal, and regular people can actually make a choice between whether they'd like to vote for a Republican or Democratic candidate. I think he was a little out of touch, because the people he named as potential candidates have no likelihood of being able to win the Republican base right now. I'm not sure there's a civil war going on within the Republican Party. It seems to have been won by the extremists. So what do moderate, normal Republicans who are not racists and obstructionists do right now? Do they form another party?
Well, they have to make a choice. And it's people like me who are saying, I'll stick around. I want to be an agent of change, because I've seen, just as you mentioned earlier, Ali, that we need a healthy 2-party system. We don't have a multi-party system here. I've gone out and I've done the 3rd-party thing. I tried it in 2016. I was out west talking to Western Republicans out in Utah, Wyoming, Idaho. There's not an appetite for a 3rd party, or at least there wasn't back then. And I still think there's not a real appetite. Unfortunately, we're in this moment where still there's more to come. And it's like, how much more do you need when the Texas GOP chair is telling a sitting Congressman Chip Roy to cool it, to change his language, to watch his words, to think before he speaks? These Republicans, I thought for the longest time, had to be faced with real repercussions. This had to be a problem that came right to their face for them to really correct course. We've now seen that that's not possible. So these moderate Republicans who hope to be a presidential nominee from the party, I'm chuckling. They don't have a chance anymore. We've come so far away from that, because this is a party right now so uninterested in governing. And that was a long time coming. I've seen that too. But truly, people like me, under 40, young mothers who've had the challenge of this entire past year with no real action, no real leadership until we got Biden in office. And I don't say that to tip my hat to the Democrats just because. But the reality was, the Trump administration did the bare minimum. And I saw moderate conservatives still make excuses and say that was good. This is where we are at as the Republican Party today. And to correct course, we're going to need the reformers to be people who felt pain. So minorities, young people, the working class. That's where you'll see the reform for the Republican Party come from.
Which, Jennifer, in the past has actually been a real thing. This collapse of the Republican Party might be good for the Democratic Party. It's not good for society. So what do you actually see happening? Is there something on the horizon when you speak to Republicans or conservatives who don't identify as Republicans anymore, but don't identify with the far-right extremist, racist conspiracy theory wing of what is now the Republican Party? What do they see as a viable future about who they will put their checkmark next to in the next election or in the 2024 election?
Well, these people are in a real quandary. Some of them have said, you know what, so long as Joe Biden is running the Democratic Party and they're kind of a center party, maybe I'll go along with them. Others are hoping against hope that they can run a primary challenge against some of these really radical Republicans. And others are simply just biding their time. We are in this destructive loop where anyone who steps out of line by Trump gets crushed. So the party gets worse and worse, not better and better. The moderates retire. The moderates lose in primaries. And so what you're getting is this distilled quagmire of really kind of toxic behavior, toxic thought. So I think most Republicans who have really been appalled by this are considering their options. Some of them have re-registered either as independents or as Democrats. Others, like myself, are sort of mission-oriented in terms of defending democracy, defending the right to vote, taking Republicans to task for their racist language, their racist conduct, seeking government reform, including executive branch reform. So there are lots of activities that former Republicans are engaged in, but I don't think anyone at this point has a recipe to change the Republican Party. That's going to come when they're defeated again and again. That's going to come when they decide that it's no longer viable to cling to Donald Trump.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what this looks like, but I appreciate the input of both of you because you're closer to it than I am. Jennifer Rubin is an opinion writer for The Washington Post. Rina Shah, strategic and policy consultant and a former Republican senior aide on Capitol Hill. Thanks to both of you for an important discussion.